Ancient Rome wasn't all battles and togas. When the sun went down, the city transformed into a wild party scene that would make Vegas look tame. From secret underground bars to scandalous dinner parties, let's crash the biggest party in history. Let's start our night out in ancient Rome by hitting up some bars, and trust me, they had options for every type of partier. At the high-end wine lounges, rich Romans sipped expensive imported wines while gossiping about the latest political scandals. But the real action happened in the neighborhood taverns called Pompeii. These were basically the ancient equivalent of your local dive bar, loud, crowded, and probably a little sticky. The walls were covered in graffiti from drunk customers, dice games got heated fast, and the wine, well, let's just say quality control wasn't exactly a priority. Some taverns were so notorious that emperors tried banning them, which worked about as well as you'd expect. Fun fact, archaeologists found one papena in Pompeii with a wine menu still chalked on the wall. You think modern drinking games are wild? The Romans would laugh at our beer pong. Their favorite party game was King of Wine, where one person became the drinking ruler for the night and set crazy rules for everyone else. Miss a rule? Chug your wine. They also loved something called kottabos, where drunk party guests would fling their wine dregs at targets while shouting their crush's name. Think of it as ancient Roman Cupid meets food fight. And these weren't just random party games, they were a huge part of their culture. Even fancy politicians would join in, though they probably regretted it the next morning when their wild antics became the talk of the forum. Okay, let's talk about Roman dinner parties. And I mean the absolutely bonkers ones. Rich Romans didn't just serve food, they created full-on theatrical productions. We're talking peacocks served with their feathers reattached, live birds released from inside pies, and seafood that was still alive when it hit the table. One famous host, Trimalchio, even staged his own fake funeral during dinner, just for fun. The guests would lounge on special couches, getting fed grapes by servants while watching professional dancers, musicians, and even gladiator fights between courses. Some hosts would even flood their dining rooms to create floating dinner parties. And the portions? They'd make your eyes pop. One emperor served 1,000 ostriches at a single party. Talk about a food coma. Hey, feeling hungry after all that partying? Ancient Rome had you covered with the world's first fast food scene. The streets were packed with food stands called thermopolia, basically the Roman version of late-night pizza joints. These spots had huge clay pots built right into the counters, keeping food hot and ready 24/7. The menu? Everything from hot sausages and spiced wine to fish stew and the Roman favorite, a weird but tasty fish sauce called garum. These places were super popular with the working class and party crowd. Fun fact, archaeologists found perfectly preserved thermopolia in Pompeii, complete with food still in the pots. The counters even had stains from where drunk Romans spilled their wine. Some things never change, right? Let's get real about Pompeii's spicier side. The graffiti tells us way more than any history book. The walls of Pompeii were basically ancient Twitter, packed with reviews of local services, price lists, and some seriously saucy poetry. One popular spot had over 120 different messages scribbled on its walls. But here's what's fascinating. These weren't just crude notes. The graffiti shows us everything from love stories to political jokes, giving us an uncensored peek into Roman street life. My favorite? A message that reads, "I can't believe I'm writing this, but I miss my wife." Looks like drunk texting your ex isn't such a modern problem after all. Let me tell you about ancient Rome's ultimate sports celebrities, the gladiators, and their absolutely wild fan scene. These guys were like rock stars mixed with pro athletes, complete with their own super rowdy fan clubs. After matches, fans would pack the bars near the arena, drinking and arguing about their favorite fighters. The really dedicated fans even formed official clubs with matching tattoos and special meeting spots. But here's the funny part. Gladiators themselves weren't supposed to drink much. Their trainers had strict rules about staying fit. Of course, that didn't stop some of them from sneaking out to party with their admirers. We've found ancient bar tabs showing famous gladiators buying rounds for the whole house. Want to know what a Roman party playlist sounded like? These folks knew how to get down. The fancy parties had orchestras with water organs, lyres, and these wild double flutes called tibiae. But the real party was in the streets, where people went crazy for percussion. They'd bang on drums, shake tambourines, and create these incredible rhythms that would get everyone dancing. The best musicians were super famous, like ancient rock stars. They'd travel around the empire playing shows, and some even got rich enough to buy their freedom if they were slaves. And the dancing? Total chaos. Rich Romans tried to act proper, but after a few drinks, everyone would end up doing these wild spinning dances called the bellicrepa saltatio. Imagine the wildest party you've ever been to. Now multiply that by 1,000, add unlimited power, and you've got an emperor's private bash. Take Emperor Nero's parties. This guy turned his palace into the world's first mega club. He built a rotating dining room that sprayed perfume on guests and installed a ceiling that dropped rose petals until people were almost drowning in them. One party got so crazy it actually started a fire that burned down half of Rome. Then there's Caligula, who turned imperial ships into floating party palaces, complete with marble floors and heated pools. These weren't just parties, they were power moves. Politicians made alliances, plots were hatched, and sometimes emperors even got assassinated right there on the party couch. Ready to lose your toga at the Roman casino? Gambling was technically illegal in Rome, but that just pushed it underground and made it even more exciting. These hidden gambling dens were everywhere, from back rooms in taverns to secret basement clubs. Romans bet on everything. Dice games, chariot races, gladiator fights, even which fly would take off from a honeypot first. The most popular game was tally, played with knucklebones, where one lucky throw could win you a fortune or cost you your house. We've found actual loaded dice in Roman ruins. Looks like cheating at games is as old as gambling itself. Even emperors couldn't resist. Augustus loved gambling so much he'd play through entire festivals. Ever wonder how Romans dealt with those post-party headaches? They had some wild hangover cures. Their go-to remedy was raw owl eggs mixed with wine. Yeah, the hair of the dog approach started way back then. Some doctors recommended wearing a necklace of laurel leaves, while others swore by deep-fried canaries. Seriously. The morning streets were a mess of broken pottery, spilled wine, and passed-out partiers. Special cleanup crews called scopari swept through at dawn, armed with brooms and probably a lot of regret about their career choices. Fun fact, archaeologists found ancient Roman hangover pills made from ground-up plants and charcoal. Thanks for partying through ancient Rome with me. Who knew those Romans could get so wild, right? If you enjoyed this historical happy hour, smash that like button and subscribe for more ancient shenanigans. Share with your party-loving friends.